Hey guys, it's Clayton. Today we're talking about some of the difficulties in deal sourcing. So if you are going to be out there originating deals and you're trying to help grow that pipeline, set appointments, everything else, you're going to run into obstacles. That's just part of the game, right? But what are those obstacles, and there's a way you can deal with it? It's a great question and something you should probably think about. So first and foremost, the biggest issue is it's a highly competitive environment. There are a ton of people looking for deals. There are a ton of firms looking for deals. They're all over the country. They're global. Everybody is doing that, right? So it's highly competitive. They're all finding them, right? It's going to somebody. All these deals are happening, but it is a highly competitive environment, which means you got to get in the game, you got to get going, and you need to be doing something strong. You can't just do the bare minimum and expect really good results. That just doesn't make sense. And if it does make sense to you, just leave my channel and go somewhere else. You're good. Don't worry about it. All right, so it's a saturated market. It's something you need to think about because everybody's got their own, sales proposition, value proposition, and they're going to be a lot alike. I mean, honestly, if you have 100 bankers in the room tell you how great their firm is, they're going to sound a lot alike. Sorry guys, it's true. So you have to actually do something to differentiate yourself a little bit. And at the bare minimum, you need to be talking to the right people at the right time. Right? So that's the next part, is how do we really identify a genuine opportunity? Well, the idea behind that is you need to be in the right place at the right time. And you don't know what the right time is, so you have to be in the right place all the time. This is really difficult, but it's something that we do. Now, technology has actually helped a ton in this, right? So let's say I'm in New York. If it was before the internet, I would only really be talking to people in New York, right? My social circle, my sphere of influence, everybody I can talk to is right there in New York. But now that we have the good old internets, I can be friends and talk with anybody globally, whether they're in another state, whether they're right next to me. That has been like a huge blessing. Now it does open up competition, but allows me access to get in touch with a lot of people. The other upside is I don't have to be in the room with you to maintain a solid and helpful relationship. Phone calls, video meetings, all of these different things, webinars, information, market research, all of these things help us build a relationship. But that is one of the other big issues, is how do you maintain a relationship for years, right? If you think about it, you're working on a success fee or a commission. That only happens when the deal closes. But if I meet you 5 years before that deal happens, say I meet you and you say, hey, I want to retire and sell my company in 5 years. I have to come up with something for 5 years worth of relationship for that transaction. Now, ideally, it's a genuine relationship, but you can also have just a professional relationship without being, we're going to send you a bunch of random spam. Like, don't let that get in your head. You can have tons of things to give them for 5 years. But staying in touch with somebody well for 5 years means that there's a lot of points in time where somebody else could just be there, the right place at the right time, and that's who they go with instead of you. So this is why it's really important to have a system that proactively puts you out there in front of them, building that relationship. Now, it's really hard, I'm not gonna lie. You might have to think about some different regulatory issues. You might have to have certain licenses in certain states. You might need a U4 that's set up for a certain state. Most of these things are really not that big a deal. Just make sure you check any compliance box that you need to do. One of the big ones, don't make promises you can't keep. That's just general business advice, so you're welcome. But these are the main obstacles when it comes to it. The last obstacle is really going to be whenever it comes to a pitch, to try and be that person to get engaged. Right? You're going to have a lot of last minute obstacles. That might be legal versus legal. It might be you versus them. There's a lot of ways to do it. right? But that's way easier than getting the lead to start with. So if you have a plan to deal with every single one of those obstacles and mitigate it as best you can, you're doing better than most. And here's the cool thing. Once you have that plan in place and you start, acting on it, you can change it. Right? So let's say you're reaching out 6 times a year, you're putting together different information each time. It's just a nice, easy touch. Like, hey, where are you at in the stage? How do you build a conversation? If you find out it's too little, reach out every month. If you find out it's too much, reach out every quarter. It is a really bad idea to assume, though, what the other people are going to think. So you want to make sure that you try and evaluate if you have any bias in this decision-making process, right? Because this is all one-sided that we're talking about. We know this about us. We know this about our firm. We know this about the length of a deal cycle. Most people will need that knowledge when they know they need that knowledge. So you have to make sure and give them that knowledge before they find out they have to know it. So you are going to be teaching consistently. And you might have, using that same example, it could be you met someone 5 years ago, but you need to reiterate what that that length of time is that you need to prepare. So let's say they want to sell in 5 years. Maybe we start a consultation process 3 years in, and then 4 years in, we are doing a preliminary, deep dive into the books, or we're practicing this, or we're doing a really in-depth market analysis. Every firm is going to have a different version. So, whatever your firm is on that style, find out what it is and be sure that whoever's actually trying to build the relationships has that information and is using it. Because if it's a 5-year cycle, which this is extreme, but that's why I'm using it, right? And you have to have that real important conversation in 3 years, why would you wait till 5 years to go talk to them? That's terrible, because somewhere between 3 and 4 years, they might think about it on their own and they might go with somebody else. So if you weren't staying in touch that whole time, you could have lost out on a massive deal. And that's what happens in really long sales cycle pipelines. So it's the downside, but the upside is if all the other guys are forgetting to do that and you're 20% better, there's a strong chance you're really getting a lot more traction there. But if you're 100% better, man, you could have so many more leads. Take that for what it is. Use the obstacles that you have because everybody else has it, and just power through those, find solutions, and that will help you knock it out of the park and get great at deal sourcing. If you need help with that, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for more videos.